Hi, everybody. I hope this view looks somewhat familiar. And I thought it'd be nice to be able just to give the Devar Torah over from bring Beth Lida into your homes. I hope everyone's doing well. Answering the call. The story of Abraham is famously one of en medias res, a literary term referring to a narrative that starts in the middle of things. When we're introduced to Avram Avinu, it's as an adult, and he is seemingly abruptly launched on a journey away from everything he ever knew, because of a message from God that he hears inside his heart. We are provided no origin story, no meet cute, in which the Holy One and Abraham become acquainted. The reader of the Chumash is left mystified as to how something so intense and so demanding could exist all of a sudden. The Midrash in Breshit Rabbah and elsewhere attends to this enigma and frantically tries to fill in the gaps, offering tales and background data, all in the attempt to justify why it was this man and not another that was chosen to be the beginning of our people. Another way of asking this: was there anything distinguishing in Abraham that singled him out as God's intended? What prompted him to become the world's first monotheist? As mentioned above, the Midrash offers a number of different aspects of Abraham's youth that singled him out as exceptional. But I want to focus on one story that has garnered a bit of renown. In Breshit Rabbah 39:1, in an effort to understand Abraham's personality, Rabbi Yitzchak offers a parable, a mashal, of a person taking a stroll. While walking, this person encounters a bira doleket, a building on fire. Astounded, the person asks, "Is it possible that the building has no manager?" Upon hearing that, the owner of the building sticks out his head and identifies himself. As is often the case, when you attempt to decode the mashal into a nimshal, namely the decoding of the parable, it is not nearly as easy as it seems. A decoding often encountered of this passage has Avraham witness the sorry state of the world. It's a garbage fire, as they say nowadays, and he demands to see the manager. God then identifies God's self, and their relationship is begun. However, this solution, at least to me, is dissatisfying on a number of levels. Firstly, it undercuts the validity of Abraham's challenge, as God's self-introduction implies that Abraham should not have been so concerned. Additionally, if one pays attention to the language of the Midrash, with which the rabbis were always very careful, one notices that while the stroller asked for the building's manager, the person who answers identifies himself as the building's owner. And as anyone who has ever lived in an apartment building knows, the superintendent, the manager, is not the same as the landlord. They have distinct roles and duties. So, Abraham's question is left mysteriously unanswered, as the owner of the building appears to be an absentee landlord, with no superintendent on site to attend to maintenance or repairs. The building has become a fire trap. Or perhaps his question was answered, but not in such a direct fashion. As Professor David Stern in his book Parables in Midrash points out, when one attempts to decode the mashal into a nimshal, one often finds that the pieces in place and characters at play do not always line up so neatly. In this case, we can see that the stroller is a stand-in clearly for Abraham, and the bira doleket, the building on fire, is a metaphor for the world. However, if we attend carefully to the language of the parable, we are left with two additional characters, not just one. The building's manager and the building's owner, two separate people. Assuming, as we must, that there's only one God, we are forced to assign to the creator the role of the landlord, because God created the world. God owns the universe. So we're left asking, who's the super? Abraham sees the building aglow and asks the location of the person whose job it is to take care of it. The figure who answers is the building's owner, the creator of the world, and so begins their relationship. God answers the call, but is clear about the limits, as it were, of God's involvement. God owns the building, but is not on site day to day. Repairs are the job of the super, not the landlord, as all of us who rent apartments know so well. And that job is still open. Abraham's demand was valid. His question was correct. And the indirect response he got was exactly the answer he needed. The superintendent has not yet been hired. Are you looking for work? Lech, Lecha. This is to say, it is exactly the person who insists on posing the challenge, on asking the hard questions, that is the one who answers the call. There is not a magical solution waiting for us that shows us our question wasn't needed or was foolish. Rather, the fact that we are asking the question is the first step. It's the first step, not the last. And we pose that question to the world, yes, and to God, but also to ourselves. The question that hovers atop the question we articulate is, will we too respond? Will we answer the call? Developing critical insight is essential in life, as it helps us identify what it is that needs attention and change. You notice something that is not as it should be, and you ask, who is going to take care of it? And you could stop there, feeling satisfied that you noticed something worthy of attention. But the fact that you were the one who noticed means, too, that you are the one who knows something needs to be done. Will you wait for the landlord, or will you dig out your toolbox and get to work? We are still left with the question, what was unique about Abraham that called God, the actual divine, God, to initiate a relationship without which we wouldn't be here today as the Jewish people? The Holy Zohar was left wondering the same thing, and posed in response a radical interpretation that simultaneously exalts Abraham and renders him utterly undistinguished. It says, "This is the praise of Abraham, that he is the one who listened to the utterance, Lech Lecha, which was said to each and every human being from time immemorial." That is to say, what made Abraham so special was that he wasn't special. God had been looking for a partner since humans were created, broadcasting an invitation to a relationship from moment one. Abraham was not singularly picked out of a crowd, bestowed as worthy and superior. Rather, what made Abraham worthy was that he listened. He tuned himself into that signal that was available to everyone else as well. We all wander about this world, happening upon our own buildings aflame. We turn away, cast our eyes down, or observe and spectate, perhaps post about it on social media. But just like Abraham, we too are offered an opportunity each day, each moment, to respond to the world as it ignites. We can sit around and wait for the fire department, or we can organize a bucket brigade. We can wait for the landlord to show up, or we can take responsibility ourselves. What was praiseworthy about Abraham is not that he was uniquely addressed, but that he made himself ready to receive the message. The question we are left with today is, are we? Good Shabbos.